You're welcome back to the program, Issues in the News. The FIFA World Cup has come to a pulsating end in Qatar on the 18th of December 2022 to a very interesting final that saw goals, celebrations, a penalty shootout, and all you can ask for in a final game. We're going to be looking at just this entire tournament and how much of a spectacle it was. Joining us to discuss this, of course, is Dayo Towolani. He's a good friend of the house. Thank you so much for being in the studio with us.
Good afternoon, Wilson. Good afternoon, Sporting Nigeria.
All right, we'll also be having the perspective of a sports journalist who is joining us via Zoom today, talking about none other than Adetola Farouk. Farouk, thank you for joining us on the program.
Yeah, good afternoon. All right, it's good to be on the show with you.
All right. Okay, gentlemen, let's begin now very quickly. The FIFA World Cup is over. I want to get your perspective first on the tournament. The timing of the tournament was called into question before this event took place. What is your perspective on how well Qatar has done and just the implications that this will have on the rest of the season?
Yeah, I think Qatar has done well. They promised us a World Cup to remember for life. And I think they did just that. You may find scenario whereby things that are expected, the funfair, the alcoholic funfair, the way people dress, all those things, you may not see those things. But the truth is, we really, really enjoy. This is a World Cup. At least I think I've watched close to 5-6 World Cup. This is the one I can say, yes, the intrigues, the fact that it was competitive.
Yeah, it was.
It was competitive.
But we've always had that. We've always had underdogs come up and show
the fact that Africa was able to make a statement.
That's another perspective as well.
So that final statement, we were able to make it this time around that Africa, we've come to say, even though our brother are not really saying they're Africans, but we know geographically, God has put them here.
I'm sure they also don't have any doubt about that. Abiodun, your perspective on the World Cup itself. Of course, this tournament was crowded in controversy coming in. I'm going to ask Farouk this same question. Qatar and the hosting of the World Cup was said to have been done with some influence behind the scenes from FIFA and its representatives. And then that was also then plagued with lots of doubts if the event could still take place. Because we know even weeks before the event was about to start, some stadiums were not completed. Yep. So many were even wondering if we could still go on. And then we heard cases of migrant workers who were dying due to so much heat and the pressure of working overnight just to make sure the stadiums were completed before the tournament. And then the World Cup itself has come in and has been concluded. How would you say the overview of the tournament has been?
I think, to be sincere to Qatar, they did a marvelous job. Yeah. Well planned. The facilities were put in place. Logistics superb. The hotels 5-star of highest quality standard. Officiating top notch. Because if you watch all the games and look at the officiating, mind you, most of these
they were controversial. They were controversial decisions.
That's what I'm saying. Most of these referees are human beings like me and you. So once in a while, there could be this. It could be cultural influence. It could be superstar. Because at times, if you see some refs, for them to caution a superstar or some of these are football celebrities, they tend. They shy away from giving some of cards against them.
That is not helping the game.
And it's not helping the game, but in all, everybody who participated in this Qatar 2022 must have something to take back home. Yeah, it's an event to remember for a long time to come.
True. Farouk, your perspective on this then. What do you think about this whole tournament? Qatar hosting it, the weather conditions that many people doubted would have suited, although that was put to rest, as many who were in Qatar actually testified that the weather was much cooler than what they expected. What's your overview of the World Cup in total?
Well, to be honest, before the start of the World Cup, a lot of people felt that it was going to be a huge problem. But honestly, it was just that because of where the World Cup took place, because it's the past now. But beyond that, I think that I was overwhelmed. I was excited. It was beyond everyone's imagination, from the stadiums, to their organizations, to the pitch itself, and also from what they offer us from the starting of the competition, which is the opening ceremony, as well as the closing ceremony. There is no perfect World Cup anywhere in the world. Korea, Japan had their issues. Brazil, that hosted in 2014, had huge issues coming to the World Cup. In fact, there were protestations on the street of Brazil. So also was Russia. But one thing I've learned from this World Cup is that if you have serious country that are ready to host the World Cup, they will give us a spectacular one. And Qatar, even when stats have not been compiled, he's said to be arguably amongst the top 3 World Cup that have been hosted. Mine still remains USA 94, Korea, Japan, but this, is on the same pedestal with arguably one of the greatest World Cup we've ever seen.
Korea Japan was one hell of a tournament, and I cannot forget that in a hurry. And I'm already looking forward to what will be the 2026 World Cup, which will see the US, Canada, and I think Mexico, all combining to host that tournament. That will be another spectacle for us to behold. Let's talk about the final then. Messi has finally claimed his World Cup medal, much to the detriment of an Mbappe hat-trick and a penalty shootout, of course, to the heroics of Emiliano Martinez in goal. Who would you say actually made that World Cup tournament his? Messi, Martinez, or Mbappe?
Honestly, to be candid with you, let's not try and mix things together. Messi, wanted the World Cup for what Messi has represented in the world of football for over 15 years. Mbappe, for me, is still a fry. It's a journey growing and trying to emulate what Messi and Ronaldo have done in this, in this present times. For Emiliano Mbappe, for Emiliano Martinez, it should have been the biggest hero of the World Cup. But there is no way we are going to trump Messi, who everybody is talking about. In fact, Messi broke the record of most likes by Ronaldo, on Instagram, on social media, for just displaying that he has won the World Cup. That's how huge and how great Messi is. For the final, it was a show of 3 players. The biggest one has to be Mbappe, but because he didn't win, nobody will talk about someone who lost and yet scored a hat-trick for the first time since a player from England did that in the early 1960s, in the 60s. One for Martinez. To me, he's the unsung hero of the World Cup. Without him, Messi wouldn't have lifted this World Cup. From the quarter-final against Netherlands and also from the final. That huge save where he made himself so big in front of the goal to deny that last-minute goal that would have won the World Cup for the French national team and take it further to the penalty kick. I don't know how he does it. This guy absolutely will be one of the greatest keepers ever at the World Cup for his heroics, but nobody will take the shine away from Messi for who he is, and for me, deservedly so. To me, he's not the best player of the world tournament, but this is Messi we are talking about. No one will contest with that because it's Messi.
Gentlemen, is the GOAT conversation over then? Is Messi the greatest player of all time?
Well, for me, I don't want to believe that. I believe he has done what he has to do in the World Cup. He actually did it best. He's been craving for this thing for a long time. And finally, I think luck, too, came to his side. Because this was a team that, I was having a chat with somebody yesterday. I said, a team that led two goals against the Netherlands, against the French, and yet they still went ahead. I think it was just his tournament. But for me, I feel modern luck was on his side. And it actually worked for him because it would be an injustice if Messi finally did not win the World Cup. But as for the player of the tournament, for me, I want to give it to Mbappe for what he has done. I don't think anybody has ever done two hat-tricks in a World Cup. It has never happened. This is a young man and
he's just 23.
Who is carrying the French team on his back. The French was actually rolling on his back, and he did wonders. Look at the second half of the game yesterday. He actually told the players.
From the first half, many would have even doubted that, this man was on the pitch. He took over the second half.
Suddenly, he just took it over and...
Is it down to him or the coach, Abiodun?
I think football is a team game.
Yeah.
I think it's down to the coach. Because after the first half, I'm sure the coach must have ring some changes into their minds and tell them, look, why don't you take the game to the Argentinians? It's like
they had no choice.
They
are 2-0. They are 2-0 at halftime.
Why don't you take it back to them and see what is happening? And before you know it, 2 quick goals. I support what Taidayo said, but I would have loved a situation whereby we should respect the heroics of Emiliano Martinez.
Absolutely. He's well respected. And we are all saying to him.
This guy plays in a young team in England, Aston Villa for that matter.
He's just
he went to the World Cup and did exceptionally well.
He's just a scenario whereby we recognize scorers. Those guys that score goals
ahead of other players in the team.
That's not the situation.
Farouk, your perspective on this, because I was intrigued by the substitutions by Didier Deschamps after those 2 goals. He took off Olivier Giroud, the striker that has led him into the tournament, before the halftime whistle. He took off Griezmann. just a few minutes after the second half began. Obviously, he knew that something had to change, and it did work.
Oh, it was marvelous.
Yeah, I think I would completely disagree with Abiodun about the work or tactics of Deschamps. For over 75 minutes, the French were not existing. They were playing as if they were playing against a Sunday school friendly. It was just a snap from Mbappe. I don't know where that came from. He just took over the game the last 10 minutes and beyond. It could have been the greatest World Cup individual performance by a player ever. In fact, it was to me. But unfortunately, he ended up as on the losing side. Mbappe is a special talent, he's a generational talent. He's a guy that can take the mantle all by himself. He almost won it for them in the dirt. Unfortunately, they just could not, get that. For me, it was not about tacticity. It was just about a player that was willing to go all the mile and bring glory not to himself alone, to the entirety of the French national team. Unfortunately, he was able to perform individually, but just couldn't take them to the extra, mile. Talking about the match yesterday.
So what's next now? What's next for Messi? What's next for Ronaldo after this tournament?
Honestly, for the conversation, there's no way you say that. You wouldn't say that Messi has an extra edge over Ronaldo. That's obvious. You have won the World Cup in this era, then you have an extra edge over your guy who has failed to win. It's not his fault. Messi is playing with a great team that has history as far as football is concerned. So for me, Messi is over Ronaldo as far as I'm concerned. But wherever the GOAT is, depends on how you view them. I will still say Ronaldo is my own GOAT because of my personal preference. But Messi obviously is one step ahead. For the French national team, the future is bright. Mbappe is just going on 24. This guy has played 2 World Cups and has played in 2 finals back-to-back. The last he scored twice. This time around, he scored an hat-trick at the age of 23. Already has 11 goals. This boy will go ahead to break the record of players like Mustafa, Gerd Müller, and so many of them as well. So I just feel that Mbappe has got the ball at his feet. For Messi, he's going to play the next World Cup. I doubt it. But he just wants to enjoy the moment, and he deserves that.
Same question. What's next for Ronaldo and Messi?
I think I want to align with him. These guys.
Is it over for Ronaldo?
It's not over. They will still do their thing. But the truth is, they can't give you what they've given you in the past again. Forget whatever Messi has done in this competition. Here was Messi that will probably score even without, open goal, not penalties now. You understand? But his exploits in this competition probably blinded to people's.
And I have to attribute it to the tactical genius that the team put out, allowing him to not do much of the defensive.
Yes, he has so many players that probably work for him this time around.
And there was a playmaker in the team, which is McAllister, an unknown player from Brighton.
Yes, I feel by now we should be talking of the Mbappes of this world. I think there should be a paradigm shift now from Messi's, Ronaldo's of this world to these young players who are craving to create record. I feel they might not be able to eclipse
do what they can, possibly because there's even more talent.
But the truth is, Mbappe has told us he's been to just 2 World Cups, about 14, 15 goals now. This guy is still young. He's going to break records. For me, and he has won the World Cup. Don't forget he has won the World Cup.
He's already won it.
So
maybe that's why this one is not so painful.
So it may not be. It was painful because if you do what they did, if you look at what they did yesterday, there's no way you lose that kind of game and it won't be painful to you. Of course, it was painful. But the truth is, he has age on his side. He has more World Cup to go to, and he will break records.
Your perspective?
I think this is a befitting farewell to Lionel Messi.
Yeah.
At least,
even though Ronaldo didn't have that.
He could have a World Cup medal in his cabinet because as a footballer, there's no amount of achievement you achieve in the game called football without a World Cup medal hanging in your cupboard because you forever live to remember it. And to Ronaldo, because next birthday will be 38, I doubt if he's going to make the next World Cup in 2026. By then it will be 38 plus 4 years, that will be 42 years old. He may, because we saw what happened with Roger Miller of Cameroon when he came to the World Cup at that age also. So he may, but it is very, very doubtful. To Messi, he should just go enjoy himself while it lasts.
Okay, now we have to go, Farouk. But of course, the Ballon d'Or conversation will be very interesting because Mbappe and Messi both play for the same team. Whatever position they both achieve at the club level will possibly be inconsequential to who will win the best player of the year come next year.
Trust me, the FIFA award might go to Lionel Messi. But Ballon d'Or, I can tell you from the position, it will go to Kylian Mbappe. For so many political reasons, we have to ascribe to it. It is being hosted by a French magazine, and Mbappe is the face of football, whether you like it or not. He's the face right about now. So I think Mbappe would win the Ballon d'Or, and Messi has another FIFA World Footballer of the Year loading.
You are saying that Messi would win it ahead of Mbappe?
No, I said Messi would likely win the World Footballer of the Year, while Mbappe would go ahead to win the next Ballon d'Or, which is being posted by French magazine.
Oh, right.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
That makes a lot of sense. Thank you so much, Farouk. We appreciate you for joining us and giving us your perspective on the World Cup, which has been a fiesta, to say the least. A fantastic showing. And let's not forget, gentlemen, that David Adeleke was Nigeria's representative, even though we did not have our team there to showcase his talent to the world on the final day.
He did what he knows how to
He
do.
didn't show in the entertainment circle for them.
Okay, gentlemen, we have to go. Thank you so much, Adetola, Farouk, for joining us on the program. And of course, to Dayo, to Wulani, thank you so much for being a part of the program. And Abiodun Olorunibe, we also appreciate you for being here.
My pleasure, Wilson, to be here.
Until next time, have a fantastic time. I remain Wilson Amoni. Bye for now.